Hi, and welcome to Seriously Pointless Conversations about Culture, your seriously pointless podcast about all your nerdy and geek things. Today, we will be turning back time in our attempt to save our beloved hippogriff and our wrongfully convicted godfather. My name's David, and I'm joined today by Jackie. How you doing today, Jackie?
I am pretty good. How are you?
Good. We're also joined today. You might hear a few cooings in the background. Our youngest, Marcela, has decided that nap time is optional today, and she will be in the background most likely. So, but today, Jackie, we're actually continuing our series on J.K. Rowling's amazing Harry Potter series with the third Harry Potter book, the third installment in the series, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. So, before we get into everything, all Harry Potter and Sirius Blackish, how have you been?
Good. Just sleep deprived, but
Yeah.
I feel like anybody who takes care of small children understands that.
Yeah.
And that's just what it is.
We were both, a little bit of sleep deprivation, but like I said, we still got enough energy to stay, keep busy with the kids, and luckily we're able to get on here and talk a little bit every once in a while. And this is the first. Well, you've actually been on here with me the last couple times, a couple times in the last month or so. So, which I was kind of surprised, which is awesome. It just usually doesn't work out that way. I know when school starts, you'll be probably not as available. But so I will take it as it. And you're just stealing things from mommy, aren't you, sweet pea? Somehow you got your fingers scratched or swiped in there, and you stole it from mommy. Sorry,
It's
we're
a
getting
little chew toy.
easily distracted by children. But I've noticed you finally made it into the third Lord of the Rings book.
Actually, no.
Oh, you didn't?
I'm almost done
Oh, that's
with
what I
the
was.
two
Okay,
towers.
for
I'm
some reason
almost done.
I thought I saw Return of the King on there. But
No,
so you're almost done with Two Towers. That's what it was.
They are going to Shelob's lair right now, so it's like it's almost the end.
Yeah, they definitely like rearranged a few things in those books, but hopefully, I was kind of hoping at some point to either get you down here to talk about them with me because I enjoy them quite a bit. I enjoyed them quite a bit. I just haven't read them in years, so.
Well, and that's how the last time I've read all the Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit once, and I enjoyed The Hobbit a lot, I remember, but I think I was too young to appreciate the Lord of the Rings. I feel like I had to have been like sixth grade or something when I read those, and it was just like, so many names, and like, this is just annoying, and like it just drug on and on. But now that I'm older, I really enjoy it, and I guess I'm able to visualize more. Maybe thanks to the movies, but like
maybe, yeah. I mean,
I enjoy it a lot more, and it's like getting good, and I know what's going to happen. And I like Frodo way better in the book. I mean, Elijah Wood is great, but like I just feel like he's kind of just there and like a little wussy. And in the book, he's, I don't know. I just like the book's portrait of him a bit better.
Yeah, they do a little bit more justice, and like I said, the books are always better than the movies. So it's, but yeah, along with like yourself and many other individuals, the movies really kind of thrust that series into the limelight and made people interested again. And if you guys really enjoy audiobooks, there's an excellent rendition of The Hobbit. I believe it's a full cast. They did a long time ago. I remember I got it. It was before. It was in the 90s. I remember seeing. So I'm thinking it was like more from like the 70s maybe or the 80s when they made it. I just vividly remember there was this picture of Smaug on the front cover of it, and he's just this like gold red dragon, and he's just like super muscular looking.
Not like the cat one.
Yeah, not like
the Rankin Bass
not like the cat one, which if you guys like that kind of stuff, that's an excellent film. Which I really outside said I want to watch. I want to talk about the movie and the book comparison whenever we get a chance, especially that Rankin Bass one, not the new ones that the Peter Jackson stuff did. I was not
let's not pretend. Let's just pretend those aren't around. But
it's just not around. So
yeah, the Rankin Bass one is awesome.
But talking about amazing trilogies, this is the third book in the Harry Potter series that we're going to be talking about today.
Not a trilogy, but you're right, like the third book.
So yeah, well, that's why I'm trying to make a comparison. It's called a loose connection, so we can get the podcast moving along. A loose transition, very much of a loose transition. But anyways, I hope everyone's having a good day today because we're going to talk about some slightly depressing things today in the Harry Potter books. But
this is my favorite book, though.
It is.
This is such a good book.
It's kind of it's sad because you know what's coming. That's the problem. Is I was. But no, I mean, you kind of know what's coming already, and if you've read the books already, so it's kind of sad that you were thinking, you're like, oh, this is great. Harry, this is like J.K. Rowling's going to put a little, like she puts a glimmer of hope. Like Harry's going to have
a home.
He's going to have a family, an actual family now. It's going to be great. And then later on, like she just like
wrenches it away,
takes your piggy bank and bashes it with a hammer and steals your money from you.
I mean, I feel like the other books are way darker than this. This is a good transition to, I think we've talked about this before, but I feel like each book gets more mature. It like grows with Harry, and so he's 13 in this one. They're all 13. Yes. And I feel like it's just getting a little dark, but it's like nobody's like brutally murdered.
Yep.
So that's good. But it just the whole like, life isn't always happy. And
so it's this one and the Goblet of Fire, the Triwizard Tournament book. So the next one,
that gets dark. And
these are the more serious. These are the two where you really start to see that transition from lighthearted children's novels to somewhat angsty teen novels, and then also into like, hey, this has got some serious plot lines in it, no pun intended, but it's definitely got a lot more heavy themes to it. So before we get into the plot of the story, a little bit about the book. So Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban is a fantasy novel written by British author J.K. Rowling and is the third in the Harry Potter series. The book follows Harry Potter, a young wizard, in his third year in the Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Along with friends Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger, Harry investigates Sirius Black, an escaped prisoner from Azkaban, the wizard prison, believed to be one of Lord Voldemort's old allies. This book was originally published in the United Kingdom on July 8th of 1999 by Bloomsbury, who's the guy. These are the guys that have been publishing the last two books. I think they pretty much published all of her books. And it was also published later on in September of 99 by Scholastic, who has all the rights to the Harry Potter books in the States, from what I remember. So,
yeah, you're right on that.
Yeah, but yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
Initial impressions of the book. When did you, let's ask this, no, let's dial it back a little bit. When did you first read this book?
When I was 13. It was kind of like, it seemed like, that's why I think I have such a strong connection to this book, me and a lot of my close friends, because we started reading them when we were like 11. Ooh, Harry's 11. That could be me. And it was whenever it was available, pretty much, is when I started reading it. And I'm sure I read it for school for like AR, accelerated reading. But
if anybody remembers that, that's a great program.
Yeah, I know we bought it for sure. And this is the one I've read the most because it's my favorite.
Is it your favorite too, sweetheart?
Marcy likes it too. And it's a side note, but this is my favorite of the movies too. Mm-hmm. And I think that helps. But even before the movie came out, I had the visualization of how it would look. I think the movie was on point with like the hippogriff and like the flying scene and the night bus. And I just remember loving this book. There's so many exciting things in it and so much intrigue, especially in the end with the time turner. Like how that gets so dramatic of like, oh my gosh, we have to do this just right. And we can't see ourselves. We can't let ourselves see us. Oh my gosh. And then the whole, like the Marauders map, introducing that.
They definitely.
The intrigue of like the rat, like freaking Scabbers. Really? I won't say any more, but I mean, it gets intense.
Well, it's really fun to think of it, especially that JK takes, the foundation you had in the first two books, and she really kind of like explodes the world essentially. Mm-hmm. Because you have, in the first two books, you have little like inklings of what the wizarding world is like, right? But in the third one, it just straight up sets up, that there's this whole governing
Yeah,
body
the
around
Ministry of Magic gets
around
involved.
the whole wizarding world that keeps everything in check. That's just mainly for the United Kingdom, from what I remember. But there's different governing bodies of for wizarding communities throughout the world as well.
Mm-hmm.
And but at the same time, like any other society, they have laws, and you start to get a little bit more of backstory about like Harry's parents and things like that. You get a lot
Mm-hmm.
more of that where they kind of she didn't really dive into it as much. You can tell this is where she started to kind of lay the groundwork for
The big
the
ending.
big ending,
Mm-hmm.
essentially, which is great, which is why I think, in my opinion too, as well, this is out of the 7 books that they have,
7. Mm-hmm.
this is probably my second favorite.
What's your favorite?
I really like Order of the Phoenix.
The angsty,
Yeah,
angry,
is that
emo one?
yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's a me thing. I don't know. I
Okay,
really
cool.
liked it. You're like, really?
That's fine.
We might have to get divorced now, David.
It's just all I remember about that one is Harry and like Cho Chang, and
Yeah,
then like, oh, I'm in love. Oh, I hate everything. The world sucks, and it's just, I mean, it's what it's like being 15, I guess. So
I think it
she
just
does a good job painting that accurately.
yeah. Look, I think it came out right about the time when I was like 15, 16. And I think I really enjoyed it. So that's probably kind of like you said, similar. Oh, you think so too? Yeah. Sorry, guys. I'm going to be talking to the baby quite a bit because she's wide awake and she's just like making all these cooing
She's
sounds.
almost 3 months old, and she's very smiley, so she's
Yeah.
grinning at me, and it's real cute.
She's so beautiful.
But
Oh yeah, but yeah, I think that in this one she does an excellent job of like I said, pushing the characters forward. She doesn't stall at all. I know a lot of people. I've read some of the reviews, like the initial reviews when this came out, like back in the '90s, and some folks were like, this is pretty black and white. I'm like, she could have done better at this, But I'm like, for real? It's just like maybe this is also that was also an adult reading the book
yeah,
for the
and I
first
think the
time.
thing is like keep in mind she's gearing this towards
She's
like
yeah,
kids and young
yeah,
adults. So,
absolutely. These are definitely young adult novels,
hmm
and I think it's one thing. And I think that's why we kind of cherish it so much is that we grew up with them, right?
yeah,
And I guess everybody has that thing. It's kind of like when my dad, he'll sit and watch the old Star Trek um, episodes, TV episodes, because it's what he watched
that's
when he
what
was a
he grew
kid.
up with.
He
Yeah,
watched when he
it's
was a kid,
nostalgia.
and so it's kind of nostalgic a little bit. And I'm sure your dad does that kind of stuff. It's like we were watching a long time ago. We were watching Leave It to Beaver, and your dad was just absorbed with it. I remember watching it.
He never watched. They never really had time to watch
Yeah,
TV, but I think it reminds him
of
of
like that
things
that
he grew up with,
yeah,
and that's why he likes it.
and I think that's kind of interesting that that's always something like that comes from our childhood. So I really like that idea that that she transitions us into from childhood into adulthood, which is great, because that's kind of what you want to do with your audience. And I think she kind of understood that, even though that she was making these books for kids and young adults, she understands that the people that are reading them are going from one age to another. And I think that's what really kind of encapsulates this. It's not like some other books like that. I don't remember if you remember the Percy Jackson books at all.
I only read the first one and didn't. I
Yeah,
mean, eh.
it was okay, but like if you read some of
This
the
came way I'm
see,
not way after Harry Potter, but this I feel like a lot of things came after Harry
and they
Potter that
try to
try to
copy that.
emulate it.
Yeah, but
Um,
that's what I think the big difference between some of those books are and the original Harry Potter series was that the tone stayed the same throughout the whole thing, and it never really like grows with you,
hmm
right? Things happen to these characters, but they never really grow or change a ton. Some they might a little bit, but they, like I said, J.K. Rowling just encapsulated. She captured that transition from childhood to adolescence to adulthood
hmm
essentially very very well in these books. And we're going to expound on that a little bit more in some of the later episodes, obviously, because we got 4 more books to talk about. but I think she does an excellent job with that, and that's what really kind of sets these books apart from so many other copycats, if you, as for lack of a better term, as it were, or young adult series. Let's even say that. So, but
Well,
do you want to talk a little bit about
the plot.
the plot? I
I would
know
be happy to just
without
rein
expounding
you
on.
in
I'll rein you in.
because there's,
I'm like,
like I said,
whoa,
this is the
Black
one I've
Betty.
read the most and I really enjoy it. But it starts with, um,
Harry's at
so
home.
Harry, yeah, I got that. I'm trying to think
I
of how
got
best
it.
to explain it.
How do I?
He's at home with the Dursleys, and if I remember correctly, he hasn't had communication all summer
Nope.
from Ron or Hermione,
Yep.
and he's very upset and kind of mad about it. And his aunt comes, who is Vernon's sister, and she is not a nice person.
Aunt
And
Marge.
yes, Marge, and
Hello,
she has her
Marge,
little
dear.
bulldogs, and so they're all eating dinner together, and she is taking every opportunity to comment on like Harry is
So
nasty and scraggly
you
and
remember?
the
So
line she
before she
says.
gets there, do you remember the part? So I remember this part in the book that he is sitting in front of, they're watching television. It's one of the few times that like the Dursleys have let him watch television with them, and Marge isn't there yet, and they see like it's in the news report, and they say be on the lookout for an escaped convict.
Sirius Black,
Yeah,
yeah, and he's like, so that's interesting that even the Muggles are
but
being
yeah, and they
alerted.
don't say, like, they just say he's like insane convict. He like came like ran away from an insane asylum or something like that.
And they
It's
don't.
just, it's really kind of, they don't expound on that he's a wizard. It's just really interesting that like they talk about that. But yeah, then
Yeah, I
but then
remember that.
Marge shows up.
Marge
Yeah,
shows up and she's insulting Harry over and over
of
again,
course
and
she is.
she
Yeah,
basically says it's like with her dogs. Like she says something like, "Well, Petunia, it's not your fault, dear, but your sister." And she's like, "It's the same with dogs. If there's something wrong with the bitch, there'll be something wrong with the pup." And it's like, then Harry just loses it. And
yeah,
he casts a spell on her without realizing, and it's the spell to like inflate her into a balloon.
that's right. She is.
And she flies away, and
She,
it's
yeah, she
hilarious.
hits the ceiling, kind of
And
like
then she
floats out
like
the
goes
window.
out the big like bay windows onto
Yeah,
like their outside deck or their
and
porch
in the movie they
garden.
kind of
The movie does it
they
perfectly.
exaggerate it
They
a little
do it,
bit.
yeah. And Dudley is sitting there like eating and watching TV the
Yeah,
entire
just
time and not even
not
noticing.
even
And
caring.
Vernon and Petunia are freaking out, and
Yeah,
Harry's like just kind of staring, like,
yeah.
"Oh my god, what
Well, like
happened?" And she flies
the
away.
minute she starts to float out the bay windows, he runs upstairs and starts packing.
Yes, he's just like, "I'm done. I'm
It's like,
going."
F this, I'm out.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it's very interesting because they, like you said, Rowling is introducing the wizarding world here in the
Hmm.
governing body, and I think she does a good job with this because shortly after you meet the Minister of Magic,
Yep.
and normally for an offense like that, like using magic
You
to
get the
blow
boot.
up, yeah, your aunt into a balloon and fly away across the sky, that's a big deal. But
You get the
you
Hagrid
notice
treatment.
the tone of Cornelius Fudge, the minister, is
Yeah.
like, "Oh, we wouldn't send anyone to Azkaban for blowing up their aunt," and it's like, "Oh, it's okay, Harry. It was just a little accident. It's not a big deal." And it's very big contrast to how he behaves in the later books
Oh yeah.
for
Very
like
two
just
faced.
minor magical accidents. But the whole reason you find out later is they're terrified that Sirius has escaped and he's
Yeah.
going to go for Harry. And they're like,
Yeah.
so that's why they're so
They're just trying to be nice to him.
protective.
Yeah.
But before all that, Harry, there's the whole night bus thing
Hmm.
with Stanley Shunpike.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that is, the movie does a great job of that too. And I'll stop quoting the movie or referencing
That's
it.
okay.
But I feel like that is a really funny part too,
Hmm.
because I remember Harry is like, runs away from home, like you said, with his trunk and Hedwig and all his stuff. And he's like, "I'm just done." And he's sitting there in the park, just waiting, like, "I
Which
don't know
is
what I'm
where
going
he
to
actually
do."
has
And
his
that's where he sees,
he has his first encounter with what you don't know is
you
Sirius
don't know
Black,
it's
right?
Sirius Black,
Yeah.
but a big black dog looking at him, and he's kind of like, "What is that?" And then the night bus shows up, and it's like, "It's for lost witches and wizards, or if
and
you needed me."
eventually he ends up making his way to Ron. He goes to Diagon Alley, and then he runs into Ron and Hermione after after about a month. I think it's a couple weeks or something like that. Because he's got it's like middle of summer when all this happens, and he ends up running into Hermione, and they're like, yeah, we heard about all this, so they end up getting ready. They go get their stuff ready for school, and then
it's basically Ron's dad also comes down and like warns him and tells him like, this is what happened, and Sirius Black, this is who he is.
Yeah.
And they
just tell him that they don't
tell him the connection to his parents.
Yeah,
they just tell him that he was Voldemort's right hand man.
Right, that's all they tell him. They leave it vague. Yeah,
I think they do say that he I think it's his fault that Harry's parents are dead. Like he helped him find them, but they don't, make the connection of, well, he was the best man at their wedding. He was your dad's best friend. Like they don't go into any of that.
The important things that
they don't reveal that yet.
They help out a little bit, and you don't really get all that information. Luckily, like I said, she kind of. JK kind of gives you little sips of information here and there, and she keeps it good. She keeps it keeps the what's the word I'm looking for?
Intrigue.
The intrigue, very well paced throughout the whole book, and so you're constantly like, I want to keep going because she's giving you little bits of information here, so you want to know more and more and more. Like, hey, how's all this connected, kind of thing. And as you go through the book, obviously, Harry picks up on these little things that Sirius is a lot more integral to his life than people let on.
Complex too.
Much more complex, and you end up finding out that obviously that he's his godfather in the book. And they have to end up trying to save him, don't they? There's a lot more intricate in there, but I don't want to ruin it all the way for him.
I mean, some other like snippets. This is not necessarily chronological, but like big things I would say that happened in this book. Hagrid is now the care of magical creatures.
He gets a promotion.
Teacher. Yes.
Fail up, as it were.
Yeah. Well, and
nice guy. Not a very good teacher.
No, he starts his first lesson with hippogriffs, and in the book, in the movie, they just bring out Buckbeak, the one. But in the book, it's like there's
3
6.
or something.
No, it's like
there's a lot of them.
Yeah, because they're all. I was obsessed with horses, and Rowling describes how each one is a different color. It's like there's a bay one, there's a Palomino one.
What is the later after that? After the whole Malfoy incident, what is the other creatures he brings out after that? They're
the slugs.
They're slugs.
They're like.
I thought I was thinking of the little.
They're like globworms.
Blastided Scroots. That's in the next book, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah,
the Blastided Scroots. Yeah.
They think that maybe he bred them on his own.
Yeah.
Something like that. You start to think a little bit
Hagrid.
like, what is he doing? Like,
well, and it's just like he was so excited with the hippogriffs, and he was doing such a good job, and like it was,
it's not really his fault.
Dangerous creatures, but he explains that you have to bow to them. They're very proud, and he has the class.
It's a turd Malfoy's fault.
He has the class split up in groups, and they all go work with a hippogriff on their own. And Harry, Ron, and Hermione, I believe, had started with Buckbeak, and it all goes well. They bow, and they he lets them pet them. Yeah. Pet him, and they're all like, okay, good. And then Malfoy's group gets a turn, and he's
a little shit.
Insulting to it. And then so Buckbeak rears up and slashes his arm. And then Malfoy's like, oh, he's killed me. And then that's
I'll be maimed for life.
Yeah, that starts the whole thing of like, well, it was obviously Malfoy's fault, but then Malfoy's dad is with a jovial, kind person he is, gets involved, and it's like Hagrid's, first I think it's Hagrid's going to be fired, but then they, talk him down, and then it's like, well, Buckbeak will be executed. So then that's the part.
Oh, yeah. Then
that ties into the ending. Yes. I'm glad I was like, you remember a lot more than I thought.
He's actually a Death Eater.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right. Now I remember that. But then another big part of this is third year is when they get to go to Hogsmeade.
That's right.
On special trips.
Holla.
But you have to have the signature of a parent or guardian. And Harry, with ant incident
Would
didn't get
you
a
have
signature.
let a kid go to Hogsmeade, right, Jackie, if you didn't have a permission slip?
No,
You wouldn't let the rules slide?
no.
Teacher. I'd
Sorry.
be like, meh, get in. It's
It's
fine.
not worth me losing my job.
I'd be like, get in. Who
Or getting
cares?
executed. The wizarding world is kind of psycho, so
Do
I
you
wouldn't
think
even
you would
mess
get
with that.
executed because you didn't have a piece of paper
Well,
signed?
what if he goes to Hogsmeade and he gets killed? Whoa.
It's
I don't
not. That
know.
wouldn't.
Anyway, that's the point.
That
That's a little
escalated.
dramatic.
That escalated quickly from
Dude, that's
like,
you got to think that way as a teacher, man. They warp your mind. Like you
is
never
that how
know
it
they're gonna
is?
be on your back for something. You
You're
just
like,
gotta.
I let that one kid sit next to his best friend, and now they're all gonna die. They're gonna cause
You
like
never
some.
know, man. Gotta be smart.
That's intense. Why would you go that way with
It's
it?
not that dramatic, but anyway,
You're
no,
like that
I
one
would not.
child.
You asked me, and I
He
said
didn't
no.
turn in his Spanish homework. So now the world shall end.
It's not that dramatic, but anyway, Hogsmeade. Point of that.
Yeah.
That ties in
Well,
importantly for many reasons.
yeah.
There's the haunted, like
The
the
Shrieking
Shrieking Shack.
Shack.
They learn about that. Butterbeer.
Yeah. Well, he
The
didn't. So
inn.
the first time that
Well,
that all of them go, he doesn't get to go.
no, he asks McGonagall, like, I thought since, I didn't
Yeah.
get my uncle and aunt to sign
Yeah.
this, I thought maybe you could sign. And she said, no, I can't. And so,
Well,
sorry, you
she
can't
pulls the
go.
heart. The reason she does it is because she thinks that Sirius is trying to find him and hurt him. Because at that point, I think
All the more reason to not sign the paper. But anyway, so
you're such
that
a Debbie
ties
Downer.
into the
Where's your sense of
Marauders map.
adventure? You gotta live on the edge a little bit.
You get old. Sorry. It gets old and it changes.
You
Adventure
just
is
get
sitting
old
like
because you're just so gray and haggard. It's
exactly. You just adventure is like going on a trip or sitting on your couch and eating a lot of chocolate. But I digress.
Ooh, slow down there, man.
Anyway, the whole thing about the Hogsmeade
Yeah.
trips, eventually Fred and George give him the Marauders map.
Yeah.
Because they said, we've memorized it basically, so we don't need this anymore.
That's a Fred and George thing to do.
Is.
They're
like, there's a path, there's several paths to get to Hogsmeade. And, I don't think they know he has an invisibility cloak. Maybe they do. They're pretty clever. But they're like,
probably not.
You can figure it out. But
Yeah.
he's got the invisibility cloak, so even better.
And he takes the
so
path of the behind the one-eyed witch.
Yeah, that statue. And the Marauders map is a whole huge thing, like that links to the end. And it's created by Messrs, which I had to look up.
You want me
I
to tell
never really
you?
knew what that was. No, I already did.
Oh my goodness! I'll step
it's
back.
How you refer to a group of men simultaneously in a formal way. So like saying Mr. but plural.
Mr.
So Messrs.
Messrs. Okay.
And so that's Messrs. Mooney, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs.
Mm-hmm.
And sadly, this is one of my biggest critiques in the movie. They never explain who those people are. Yeah. But in the book, definitely at the end,
they
you
assume
get to learn all of them.
So before we move on, can I do one quote about the Marauders map?
Yes.
Okay. So this is shortly after Professor Snape finds the map on Harry during an encounter. And he attempts to try and make it work.
Reveal your secrets.
Reveal your secrets. Mr. Mooney presents his compliments to Professor Snape and begs him keep his abnormally large nose out of other people's business. Mr. Prongs agrees with Mr. Mooney and would like to add that Professor Snape is an ugly git. Mr. Padfoot would like to register his astonishment that an idiot like that ever became a professor. Mr. Wormtail bids Professor Snape good day and advises him to wash his hair, the slime ball.
I remember that.
That is great. And so it's like a slightly sentient piece of parchment that has all these.
It's been enchanted.
Yeah, to have the
map of Hogwarts and surrounding areas. And
this is one of the most amazing.
It's amazing.
The fact that you think that you end up finding out that it was, Harry's dad and his friends made this map. You end up finding out the fact that they made this while they were in school and students. Yeah. That's insane. Okay.
And that they had enchanted it to where every single person in the castle or on the grounds appears with their little name,
no matter what.
Around. So that's pretty
it's a giveaway because you see the thing that says Peter Pettigrew on it.
exactly. And Harry is like, well, I thought he was dead,
Yeah,
but he appears on the map moving around, and that's when he tells Lupin that Professor Remus Lupin, who that's I guess another plot thing to mention. He's hired as the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, the
who
post that's
happens to
always
also
vacated.
be AKA Mr. Mooney.
Exactly.
So,
can I just say what he is? I mean, I feel like people know. He's a werewolf. But he's one of my favorite characters. And this is one thing where
Hogwarts.
I really did not like the movie's choice of actor, because that is not how he looks in my head. And the nasty mustache, I was just like, no, it's just wrong. But he's actually like, I think probably their best Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher.
I would agree
like
with that.
The best one that they've had so far, and I feel like the best one.
He hits.
That they have.
He hits
through
all
their
the
whole
things.
career.
He hits. Some things that very practically kid. Like he does Grindy Loaves. He does Bogarts. And I think he does. He actually talks about. He actually teaches Harry how to fight against Dementors, because at one point, whenever he's on the train, that's when
that's how they meet
how they meet him. That
Lupin,
he ends up
they sit in his little cab.
Gives him a piece of chocolate. And he actually teaches Harry how to do the Patronus charm, which actually ends up helping him later on down the line, quite a bit actually. And so that's kind of one of those skills that he takes on throughout his whole career, which just shows a testament of how good of a teacher
Lupin is
Remus
amazing.
Lupin is, and you kind of feel sad in the end. I don't want to spoil too much on that.
You're thinking like way
down, way into the series, but still, now, he's a very great character, and it's actually really interesting that J.K. actually Rowling. Here's a quote from her. She actually is quoted as saying this is actually one of the best experiences, the best writing experiences that I've ever had, and I was in a very comfortable place writing number 3. And immediate financial worries were over, and press attention wasn't yet by any means excessive. She's also quoted as saying that Remus Lupin was actually one of her favorite characters she's ever created.
I love him. So. Like he is one of my most favorite characters in all the books. Definitely Hermione is my favorite, but I think Remus Lupin would be the second.
See, I'm more of a Ron kind of guy.
Well, and I like Ron too. I feel like she does a very good job creating likable characters, and maybe not likable, but realistic characters that you can identify with.
I can really identify with Malfoy.
I knew you were going to say that. I thought you were going to be like, Crab or Goyle.
Crab is my spirit animal.
They're like the same. So like they're interchangeable. Like, ugh.
It's like, I like to beat rocks.
That's depressing.
That's how I always think of those two. It's just like they're just kind of like very dim-witted thugs that
they're goons.
They're goons, and later on they become very like they're a little bit more than just goons, but they're like almost malicious later on in the other books. So
yeah, I think I forget one of them more so than the other, but
anyway. I believe it's Crab is a little bit more malicious.
The one that uses that awful fire
because his dad is an actual Death Eater, and I don't think Goyle's dad is. I'd have to look it up later on.
I didn't care enough about either of them to really delve into that.
Oh, see.
Or like pay
super. See, that's the thing is I went down a rabbit hole a long time ago, about a year ago, on the it's like a Harry Potter verse channel. I went down.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and they kind of went over a lot of the Death Eaters and like their different families and like who the main ones are, and they kind of briefly touched on that one. But yeah, if you guys want to watch some really interesting stuff, I cannot remember the name of the YouTube channel, but they do a lot of the Harry Potter verse, and they go over like the different history on the werewolves. They do and all kinds of different stuff. Even like they go over like Evermorning, where the original houses come from, the line of Slytherin.
Schools. Yeah,
it's really interesting. It's really fun to look into, but I like that kind of stuff. So but anyways, getting back on track.
You made me think of one other big plot point, and then we can discuss other thoughts. But the time turner, that's a huge plot point because Hermione, like and of course, during this whole book, they talk a lot about school and classes and what they're learning.
Yep.
And that's, woven in with all of the adventure and such. But Hermione has been taking so many classes. Like it's
like
not
double,
physically possible.
like
She's
double
taking
the
double
amount.
the
Yeah.
amount of classes, more or less. And I think Ron and Harry do confront her. They don't confront her, but they do ask her at certain times, like, well, how can you be in Muggle studies? For one, why are you in Muggle studies? You are a Muggle. She's like, I want to learn about the wizarding perspective on Muggles, but the non-wizarding community. But it's like that class is at the exact same time as another one of their classes. And she's in, like, I think the only class, the divination. Oh gosh, see, another plot point we forgot. But that's
Professor
the only class she
Trelawney.
seems to not like because she doesn't like
Which
Trelawney.
who plays her in the movie? I can't remember.
Emma Thompson plays her.
She does an excellent
She does
job.
a very good job. But going back to the time turner thing, basically Hermione is taking classes that are at the exact same time, and she never misses a class that Harry and Ron can see. And they say, "Well, how is this happening?" And she's like, "Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. I just study." But you can see as the book goes on, she's getting more and more stressed and frazzled. So it's getting to her, and you find out near the end, the only reason she's able to do this is because she was given special permission to use the time turner, which literally lets you travel back in time.
Do you remember the part where she finally, like, they're doing like tea leaves or something like that, and
You're
Hermione
going back to divination.
Yeah, and like
we should mention that.
Well, it's they go back to the divination, and if Hermione's like, "Well, this is stupid," and she like it's the first class, she like just quits and leaves, and she's like, "This is dumb," and then Trelawney just like offhandedly says like, "Not everyone has the inner eye, the connection with the."
Of the small mind, says something.
Basically,
like
it's just like she's like dumb, and it's just like, and everyone's like, "Whoa."
Yeah, and you find out Trelawney is integral to the whole like Harry Potter prophecy, and because
she's kind of one of those one-hit wonder kind of people.
Harry Potter talks to Dumbledore even about it, like, why is she even a teacher? Like, she doesn't know anything, and he kind of says like she wants. Like she's a descendant of like a true seer, and it's like she has given like a real legitimate prophecy before, and she does that.
Is it a weird thing
in the book?
So I have a weird kind of like idea that like Dumbledore is kind of a purveyor of lost puppies, essentially.
Oh yeah, he is.
Like he totally feels bad for some people or for somebody, and he's just like, "I'll give you a job."
Yeah.
And you can come teach at this school. I mean, he does it with everybody. Like, even Snape, he's kind of an outsider.
But yeah.
McGonagall is a different story. McGonagall she was on track. She's was there.
Another one of my
she favorites. Was a teacher, I'm pretty sure, whenever Dumbledore was a teacher. Like, she was probably younger, started off a little bit after he was, but she'd been working there before he became headmaster. Mm-hmm. But everyone since then is kind of it's kind of like, hey, I feel bad for you.
Yeah, there's a lot of people like that, and I think you're right.
He's a good. Well, that's what I said. Yeah, he's got a good heart, and he is really trying to make a home for people. Talking about family, he tries to make kind of an artificial home for some of these folks.
Yeah, I think you mentioned at the very beginning, going back to the beginning of this podcast, how J.K. Rowling wrenches away Harry's chance of a home, and I meant to say, I would argue that Harry has a home. Hogwarts is his home, and he has a family. Like Ron and Hermione, and to some degree,
different kind
the
of
other
family.
Teachers. Like, so he does have a home and a family. It's just not the same as what we thought could happen at the end. And I will agree. When I first read this book at like 13, when I got to the end, I was crying. I was so upset, like that Harry could have had this beautiful family life, and then it was taken away. But
it wasn't this book? It was next book. You're talking about when Sirius dies?
No. That's the fifth book.
Oh, you're talking about when he takes off.
He could have. He was gonna
take off with him.
Clear Sirius's name.
Yeah, but they can't.
Yeah. They can't. But they
were
also clear his name. Yeah. And then he was going to take Harry, and like Harry could live with him.
Yeah, but then you end up finding out even further down the line that it's there's a reason why he has to go back to the Dursleys.
Yeah, you do.
And it's important that he goes back there because it keeps him safe, and eventually he can't. But
once he comes of age. But
comes of age. But there's one quote, kind of going back to the divination thing, that I wanted to read you. This is when Ron and Harry, they'd already just done. It's like a little bit after they just did the
is this the
dreams.
true prophecy?
No, not
Okay.
yet. So it goes. Ron is talking to Harry. He goes, "I dreamed I was buying new shoes last night," said Ron. "What do you think that's gonna mean?" "Probably that you're going to be eaten by a giant marshmallow or something," said Harry. So
Yeah, and
the
that's how that
whole
class is.
they kind of just think the whole class is a big freaking joke, which to be fair, it kind of is.
Well, and there's also another plot part to work in the Dementors and the Grimm. The whole idea of
Yep.
what a Grimm is, because I think the first or the second day they're reading their tea leaves,
You're just
and
gonna
Trelawney
give it
comes
all away,
over
aren't you?
and she's like, "Oh my dear boy, you have the Grimm," and it's like in his cup
What is and then
it's a
they
big black dog that
well,
is
it looks like a
this.
black dog, and then
It's death, like
yeah,
it
and
means
then
death is coming
they
to you.
tell Professor McGonagall this, and she goes, "Oh, she goes, Sybil is always predicting somebody's death once a year.
Like every year
Every year,
somebody's
somebody's gonna
and
die."
McGonagall hates her. The
She
two
really
of them hate
does.
each other, and it's really funny. Like it's funny to see the interplay of Hermione and Trelawney, but then McGonagall and
Well, to be
Trelawney
fair,
is even
McGonagall is
better.
essentially just like an older version of Hermione.
Exactly.
So
That's probably why I like her so much. But um, the whole thing with the Grimm, it actually works in
yeah,
because Harry is seeing a big black
yeah,
dog throughout everywhere, and you already said we don't know in the beginning, but that's Sirius Black.
yeah.
He is an
Because he's an
animagus,
animagus. Yeah.
and we learned that. Do you want me to tell about the Marauders map, the names of those people?
Well, we kind
Padfoot,
of already kind of
yeah, that
put
they
it on the
were
nose.
all anime guy, yeah,
You know what? You
animaguses.
say what you wanted to say.
Okay. Instead of, well,
Mooses or
Mooney.
Mises.
Yeah. Mooney is the werewolf. He's not
Yep.
an animagus, but the other three learned how to be one
Yep.
to spend time with him when he was a wolf.
Yeah, you learned that his dad was able to turn into a stag, and Peter Pettigrew was able to turn into a rat. Which find out later.
Spoilers.
Yes, he's been a rat this whole time, while Ron is just like dressing on and undressing in front of him, which is super
I love
creepy.
how at the end when Peter Pettigrew is trying to appeal to all of them when they confront him in the
Yeah.
Shrieking Shack,
Yeah.
and Lupin and Sirius. They make it. The book does it so much better.
Yeah.
The movie makes it almost sinister, like Sirius is gonna kill
Oh yeah.
Harry, and it makes it more dramatic. I didn't care for that as much, but the book, like, there Lupin is like, "No, Harry, like we're trying to explain," and Harry's like, "No, like Sirius is the reason my parents are dead," and he's actually, I think, got his wand pointed at Sirius, like he wants to attack him. Um, and then they bring out the rat and they force him to turn back into Peter Pettigrew. And I remember Ron saying, like, Peter goes around to her, like, Hermione, "Oh, sweet girl, please save me. Harry, please save me." And then he goes to
Master,
Ron, "Please
come.
save me." And then Ron is just like, "I let you sleep in my bed." And just like complete horror and
this
disgust on his
nasty
face.
old
And
man
it's
was been in
like,
his bed for
that is
years.
beautiful. Like, poor Ron. Like, talk
Yeah.
about trauma.
Absolutely.
Oh my God. Like, that's trauma.
That's
Oh.
what I said. He's like, you can imagine that the whole time.
I hope that people listening to this have read the books or at least
It is
familiar
just
with the film, because
it's
I feel like we've been really bouncy. And if I was
it's
listening to
okay.
this, I would be like, what is even happening? Like,
It doesn't matter.
What is
I
happening?
guarantee you, if they're listening to this, they've read the book, and if they haven't read the book, I highly recommend that you go listen to the book
Or read it.
or read it. I'm more of an audiobook kind of guy,
I
but
know.
yeah, they're
And that's
available
fine.
everywhere from what I've
Mhm.
gathered. You can pretty much get it. You can go to public library and grab it. I'm pretty sure, but it's phenomenal. So, but going off of that, so obviously we have a fond love for the narration of the book. Is there a one particular point in the book that you have greater admiration for than others?
The whole time turning thing, which
Okay.
I guess it's
Are you talking
probably the
about
sleep deprivation, but finally getting back to, I mentioned that as a big plot point. I'm talking about at the very near the end,
Mhm.
when they know Buckbeak is going to be executed, and Sirius has been caught. He's up in the tower because the whole Shrieking Shack thing already happened, and they like Lupin had turned into the werewolf, and they all like went to hell, and
Yeah.
Snape got confused, and it was just bad. So after all of that, and Harry and Ron and Hermione are back in the infirmary, and Dumbledore comes in to talk to them. And Ron has had his leg seriously injured, so he can't walk, so he can't go with them. But Dumbledore looks at Hermione and says, you know what to do. I think 3 turns should do it or something.
Yeah.
And he says, if you work quickly, more than one innocent life will be spared tonight. And they know that Dumbledore is kind of a crazy old guy, but he's telling all this to Hermione, and Ron and Harry are like, what are you
WTF?
talking about? Yeah. And then Dumbledore just smiles, is like, good luck, and leaves. And then Hermione, they look at her and it's like, what was that about? And Hermione gets out the little hourglass pendant, and she's like, this is how I've been getting to classes all year. This is a time turner. And she's like, sorry, Ron, because you can't walk, so
That's
you
right.
can't go. So she
Deus
puts the
Ex Machina.
Yeah, she puts the chain around Harry and then turns it, and they go back in time.
That's right.
And
later, fool.
I feel like the movie does a great job of that too. The book, awesome. It is so exciting because it's like this. Oh my gosh, they have to do it perfectly. They can't be seen by themselves.
So a little bit of a spoiler. If you enjoy that part of this book, you will really enjoy Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, because they bring the time turner stuff back into it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the same.
Yeah,
it's different. So I will leave it at that. I don't want to ruin it for you.
I haven't gotten to read that
yet. It's really, really fun.
Okay.
So
because that was my favorite part, because I feel like you just get excited because it's like you're there with them, and it's like the whole, I have to do it perfectly, or the consequences are dire, and it's just an exciting game thing.
Well, because the whole time is you've got to, on top of skirting around with the normal everyday people, everything's going on. You have to try to get around yourselves too.
Because if you see yourself, then Hermione's think about men,
the implications.
Witches and wizards have gone insane from messing with time. This is a very serious thing. You can't see yourself, and it's big.
Well, going from that, I guess my favorite part is whenever it's the initial, like you said, the initial part where you find out that Hagrid is going to be care of magical creatures, and he has that buckbeak scene. I like the buckbeak scene because
I do too.
Because I really enjoy the fact that Malfoy is just a total git in this, and then he kind of gets what he has, which I actually have a specific quote I want to read for you. I know I'm all full of quotes today. This is the part where I believe it is that Malfoy is kind of talking smack about Hagrid. So he goes, "Have you seen anything quite pathetic?" said Malfoy. "And he's supposed to be our teacher." Harry and Ron both made furious moves towards Malfoy, but Hermione got there first. Smack! She had slapped Malfoy across the face with all the strength she could muster. Malfoy staggered. Harry, Ron, Crabbe, and Goyle stood flabbergasted as Hermione raised her hand again. "Don't you dare call Hagrid pathetic, you foul, you evil—" "Hermione," said Ron weakly, and he tried to grab her hand as she swung it back again. "Get off, Ron." Hermione pulled out her wand. Malfoy stepped backward. Crabbe and Goyle looked at him for instruction, thoroughly bewildered. "Come on," Malfoy muttered, and in a moment all 3 of them had disappeared into the passageway to the dungeons. "Hermione," Ron said again, sounding both stunned and impressed.
See, and it's funny because that happens in the movie. They do that closer to the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the book, I remember that now. Hermione, see, that's why I love her. She's a BAMF. And I love how they're like, that's a girl hitting him.
She's
what do we do?
I'm
we're
just
not supposed
done.
to hit girls.
I'm just done with this little turd's BS, so I'm gonna take it and I show them how I really feel.
Take him out, man.
And then Crabbe and Goyle just whoa, what we do, boss?
Yeah,
what we do?
We don't. We not hit ladies,
right? We know hit lady, right? So I guess going from there, did you have a part in the book that you probably thought you could have done? It could have been done a little better, or is it just a flawless masterpiece altogether?
Gosh. Now I will say it's probably been about 5 to 7 years since I've read it
Hmm.
last. Honestly, with the book, no. I can't really think of anything that I would improve because I just loved it. And maybe if you gave me a homework assignment to read it and find something that could have been improved, okay, I could do that. Like more hippogriffs, or I don't know.
Yeah, and
Like
I'll agree with you on this. Like
the movie I could critique a lot more,
oh
but
yeah.
that's because I loved the book so
Well, it's
much and
because
it
they
wasn't.
had to cut out stuff out of the
Yeah, and they
book
had to change
for the
things and they
movie,
made the
so
werewolf look like a shaved
emaciated, kind of
chihuahua.
weird. Yeah, I didn't really like how they did
I
that.
hated. I don't know. I
They're
Well,
supposed
a
to be
family friend told me she thought it was like a British thing that just she's like, think
maybe
about this came from England and this is maybe like the British idea of a werewolf. But then the director of this movie, Alfonso Cuarón, is Mexican, so maybe it's like the Mexican idea of a werewolf. I should know more about
he's
that.
more
I
of a
don't know. He
chupacabra,
looks like a chupacabra is legit, so
emaciated, kind of a Wendigo looking kind of thing
he's
almost.
so horrible, so
Yeah,
ugly.
it was not my cup of tea, but yeah, it's that's one of the things. But yeah, I'm kind of the same boat as you are with the book. I truly enjoyed it. I don't think there really any. It slows down a little bit in the middle, but that's pretty normal for most
Hmm.
books. But it does a very good
She's giving
job.
you all the details you
She's
need. That's
yeah,
what I feel like this one just
pacing is excellent in
there's
this book.
so many exciting things happening and like you read the quote about how Rowling said this was like her favorite to
Yep.
write because there wasn't so much press,
Well,
she
yeah,
wasn't financially strained, and I think you can see that like she is having fun.
yeah.
Like I've been
She
it's
knows that it's not just a one-off where she's like, "Oh, I did these two books that are really really good. They're
mhm
renowned now.
mhm
Everybody's read them. They're making movies now. They're starting to make movies. She knows that she will be financially taken care of the rest of her life
mhm
from even if it's just these three books. The whole
yeah.
series will be good for her.
I think it's exciting to see somebody doing something they're passionate about, and I think you can see that in like a piece of artwork, you can
Yeah,
hear that in music, you can see it in a film, and you can read it, I suppose. And I feel like in this book, that's even as a young child, well, I guess 13-year-old, I feel like I felt that.
teenager. Yeah.
Yeah, that like I could see like this is somebody's passion project,
Hmm.
and that is very meaningful. And yeah, I just love it. It's a great book.
It is phenomenal. But so, let me
Did we
ask you.
say the word Dementor once in this?
Yeah,
We
we did.
did. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
which
That's
we
another
kind of go over a
thing.
little bit. Like I said, there's so much you can get into. If you guys want to have a really interesting history lesson about what the Dementors are and where they come from, check out that page because it's kind of interesting. They're supposed to be actually man made or wizard made. Actually,
Really, they are horrifying, and
that's
I do feel
from
like
they're actually a dark wizard thing. Actually,
Dark Wizards
it's
created them.
really a dark wizard in particular, very an insane one. It's pretty cool. Look it up sometime on YouTube. It's a like I said, I went down like I told you, I went down a deep rabbit hole of Harry
Mhm.
Potter lore about a year ago, and it was fun. I had a blast with it, so um, I would highly recommend it. Anyways, so without spoiling too much more of the book, are there any other quotes that really stood out to you at all, or anything like that?
Hmm.
Nothing in particular. No.
I think the one I said about Dumbledore when he was telling Hermione to use the time turner, and
Yeah.
it's like if you work, quickly, then more than one innocent life will be spared tonight.
Okay.
Because that one, like even reading it for the first time, not knowing what's going on, thinking like, oh, who is he talking about? Because
Yeah.
Sirius, obviously, but then the second one, Buckbeak's gonna be executed.
Yep.
Whoa! And that I love how
But
they
it's
free
okay.
Buckbeak, and
They're
then
both saved.
Sirius takes him. Yeah, and
That's
so
all that
Sirius and
matters.
Buckbeak go flying off together.
So yeah, that was
Mhm.
that's our brief synopsis and our our
It's just a lot
explanations and
going
our
on.
critiquing of the
I
book.
don't know that I had any critiques for the
We had
book.
critiques. Oh, it can be a positive critique as well. What you liked more about most about the book, what you didn't like about the book.
Everything,
Yeah, so there you go.
nothing.
So, and the majority of folks, whenever this book came out, they were very enthusiastic about it. Gregory Maguire wrote a review in the New York Times for The Prisoner of Azkaban, and then he said, "quote So far, in terms of plot, The books do nothing new, but they do it brilliantly. So far, so good. End quote. And so, like I said, that's kind of the my feeling about the book. Like I said, it's not anything. She doesn't really throw a ton of new ideas into the mix, but she definitely expounds on the world within Harry Potter, the Potterverse, as it were, and she does it better, in my opinion. She's really kind of found her. It's kind of like um, somebody going from high school basketball or some kind of sort of sport into college level basketball and then finally going into like professional sport. This is kind of how I feel about it. She's really kind of upped her game a little bit. Yes, ma'am. What's that? Oh, is that what
I
it's
was just
called?
wanting to show. Is that the thing you were talking about?
The
So you can tell
Potterverse?
people. Are
No, the
those the
I
movie or
think those
the
are the
YouTube channel?
books. Those are the so people. So in the Potterverse, they actually
Sorry, that's
read the
interrupting you.
books. They read the
Oh,
books. Yeah. And actually, it was fun fact. During the pandemic, if you guys want to hear something really cool, the original cast of the Harry Potter actually all got together and they read all through all the books and they each read a chapter. So you have Daniel Radcliffe, um, wow, who am I? Not Hermione Granger,
Emma
Emma.
Emma Stone.
No,
No, Emma Stone's awesome, but no. Um,
wow, I'm having a brain fart of her last name.
well, Rupert Grint
Yeah, he does one.
is.
But then you actually, it's really interesting. They got everybody to come in and do a little bit of the reading, but it was really fun. Emma Watson.
You're right. Yeah, you're
So
right.
it just took a little bit to get to me, but everyone came in. They read different chapter of the books, and it was really really fun to listen to it. But yeah, if you guys want to hear something like that, that's also on there. Like I said, all the audiobooks are online on YouTube for free. You can listen to them. So I would always highly suggest that. So um, and then as well as like I said, the only negative review that I was able to find came from Anthony Holden. He was actually so he was one of the judges reviewing the Prisoner of Azkaban for
For
the
the
the Whitbread Award. So he is quoted as saying that the characters are all quote all black and white end quote, and the quote storylines are predictable, the suspense minimal, and the say sentimentality
cloying.
cloying every page end quote. So
Yeah, I would have to
that's kind of somebody who's just
disagree
like,
with that man, but that's
yeah,
okay.
that's 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 basically somebody that I think has kind of doesn't have a lust for life, in my opinion. It seems that
You
when
think he's like an old sad person
I
staring
wouldn't
out
say an
his
old
window,
sad person. I think
thinking about
he's
how the
just a
world has
morose
gone
person
to
that wants to have like
heck.
doom and gloom in all of his books. You can have like sad books and sad points in your books and sad things to read, like a little bit of H.P. Lovecraft, maybe horror or whatever it is. But at the same time, you got to have a little bit of like lightheartedness. And like I said, maybe he was having a bad point in his life and he just didn't like the book. You know,
Getting into like the mental, like how was this man feeling?
I don't know. Maybe
But
like I said,
anyway,
but anyways, like I said, that was the very very small minority for these books. So much so that the prisoner Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban actually won several awards, including the 1999 Booklist Editor's Choice Award, the 1999 Bram Stoker Award for Best Work for Young Readers, the 1999 FCGB Children's Book Award. He actually won the Whitbread Award, a book award. Um, but like I said, it just goes on and on and on. She actually, the biggest one, she was nominated for 2000 Hugo Award, but she lost that award. But like I said, there's so many, different awards and things that she was nominated for in this that I was just amazed that she didn't get, which it kind of made me sad. It is what it is, but eventually it really didn't matter all that much. Yeah, and she waking back up now.
she is, yeah.
She decided she wanted to
I
wake
think
back
the
up.
point is, from kind of skimming through what you had written about the awards one, I think out of all the 7 books, this one
Yeah.
really connected with people.
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's clear
No,
to
absolutely.
see. Um, but everybody has their favorite thing.
Yeah, and everyone has their kind of their favorite ideas and things like that. But and they said they eventually obviously even if it was a critical success, was also a commercial success. So from what we can tell, the sales by 2012 showed that over 3.3 million copies were sold worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
So, and on top of that, 68,000 copies were sold just in the UK in the first 3 days of publication. So that says a lot about it.
Yeah. Well,
Going
and I
from
think
there,
two people were getting excited because the first and then the second you read
yeah,
those, and
kind of
oh,
that's okay, sweetie. It's okay. If you want to pick her up, that's fine.
she enjoyed the book as well.
She, even though she has never read it yet, she still enjoyed it. But yeah, like I said, people start to have this fervor, and you start to notice it later on, even. Because did you go to the final book release with me at Barnes and Nobles
Yeah, I
for?
did. We have
Yeah,
a photo from that.
we did. I was excited about that. I was really happy to go with you too, because that was we were had just started dating a little bit. Oh my goodness,
Mm-hmm.
it's okay, sweetie.
Yeah, that's not me. That's our 3-month-old
Are
baby.
you sure? It sounded like you.
Just all right, all right.
It's okay, sweetie pea. She says, "Don't you dare call me that." Anger.
Keep talking.
Okay, I saw. I got. We'll cut that out then. But yeah, so obviously you have all these copies commercially. All these copies that are sold commercially. It's a success. Critically, it's a success. A success. If I could talk, that'd be great. I'm.
You're
I'm.
speaking parcel today.
There it is. There it is. Gathering my roots. My roots. And then eventually, the really cool thing about some of the adaptations that they came up, it was such a commercial success that they opted for. This is when they actually announced that they would be coming out with the movies in a few years. Actually, they were going to start filming. They had started looking for talent and things like that, and that is why it's pretty much in the year 2001 is whenever the first film comes out.
Yes.
And that's so immediately after this comes out, they start looking for people, and that's where you get these these unknown names at the time of Emma Watson, Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert
Grint.
Grint. I was gonna call him Rupert Giles from Buffy. I don't know why. So definitely not the same guy.
Very different.
And they start to bring all these people in, and they start to build this world and put it into film version for us at the very minimum. But they do all kinds of different things with this book. They've reiterated this book so many times. They've done illustrated versions. They've done a Spanish illustrated version that somebody might have.
I haven't bought the third one yet. We
You
have the
didn't buy it?
first and second. It's gonna be for Christmas.
Oh, okay.
We're buying them for our son, but he's 2, so we have. I mean, we can wait a little bit.
He just kind of opens up and looks at the pages. That's all he really does right now. Because I did that. I let him look at it one day, and he was really enamored with it. I kind of want to read it with him whenever he gets old enough. So, kind of do what my mom did with me. Kind of read over to like do a couple pages a night or something like that. That'd be really fun. But on top of that, like I said, this movie has been adapted into games. They came out with a Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban video game on its own. They put it into Legos. They've done all kinds of things with this thing. It was just a huge commercial success, and it just never stops giving, as far as I can tell. So, but yeah, one final quote before we leave, Jackie, and then I will not. I will stop quoting. Putting out quotes so that you can give your ears a rest. Would you like to read it, or would you like me to read it?
It depends on how Marcy's doing. I'll give it a shot.
Okay.
What's the quote?
It's this one right there.
Okay. Happiness can be found even in the darkest of times if one only remembers to turn on the light.
And that is when Dumbledore is talking to Harry, I believe. Yes.
Yeah. I
That's
feel like
towards
that's
the end.
after a Dementor attack. Maybe.
That's towards the end. Whenever he takes off and one of the Dementors tries to attack Harry, I think, and then Dumbledore's just like Expecto Patronum. I think he does.
No, that doesn't happen.
No, he
Have
doesn't.
me quote no. The I would have to look up. I remember that quote, but I don't remember exactly when it happens. But the Dementor near the end of the book, they all swarm to kill Sirius Black, and Harry's with him trying to save
that's
him.
right,
And
and he
Harry's
does it.
the
Yeah,
one that is trying to blast him away with the Patronus, but he's too weak. But then Harry and Hermione have been watching.
Oh, that's right, and then he does it. Yeah,
Turner, because Harry was like, I saw someone cast a Patronus of a stag, and I saw that.
It's my mom.
It's my dad. No, he said my dad.
I thought it was his dad or his mom. Okay, yeah.
His mom's was a doe. His dad's was the stag, and he's like,
I couldn't remember which one it was.
He's like, I want to go back to the lake and see who cast that Patronus to save us. So he and Hermione are watching, and the Dementors just keep coming and coming, and he sees himself and Sirius off there, and he's like, Hermione said, well, no one's coming. And he's realizing, oh my gosh, we're going to die. And then he's like, I did it. And he jumps up and he casts the Patronus, and the stag goes. He
thinks of that happiest thought that he can think of, which is, I'm gonna have a home with Sirius. I'm gonna have a family finally, and that's when he kicks it off. So
he's able to cast it. Yeah.
That's what I remember now. So I couldn't remember that.
It's a dramatic part.
Now that you've said it, it totally kicks back to me. So, but yeah. So that is our episode and our, I guess, quote unquote, on our unofficial review of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. How many hippogriffs would you give it out of 10?
10.
You'd give it 10. I'd give it a 9 probably.
You always would.
Always room for improvement. Always.
Now you sound like a teacher.
Jackie, I want to thank you, and I want to thank Marcy for joining me today. Yes, my dad voice. Yeah, thank you, Marcy.
She made a little snort.
She says, I'm a little piggy, here's my snout. Oink, 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 oink.
Don't call it that. Anyway, thank you for talking to me about something I enjoyed.
You're like, I'm so done. Marcy says, I'm done too. But anyways, I just want to say thanks for everybody to coming in and listening today. Marcy, thanks for telling us your opinion about the wonderful Wizarding World. If you guys liked what you heard here today, please let us know. If you didn't like what you heard today, also let us know. And we need all the reviews and the help that we can get whenever we're trying to figure out what our audience and what you guys are enjoying. And I believe, hopefully, in the near future, we will try and do the next 4 books. This is going to be an ongoing Harry Potter series that we're going to have, hopefully, for the next couple months. We will get it done, hopefully, in the next, few months or so, because we still got 4 more books to do. But again, guys, I appreciate you coming in and listening to us. I'm going to say, everyone have a wonderful day, and may you guys find your Patronus. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful day. Bye. If you're interested in keeping up to date with new episodes on our channel, add us on any of your favorite podcasting apps, or subscribe to our YouTube channel at Seriously Pointless Conversations. If you have questions or concerns, please email us at seriouslypointlessconvo@gmail.com. We appreciate any feedback. Thank you for listening to our show.